Hello, everyone. Great to have you here, and welcome to My Europe, or today, Minha Europa. I'm Felix Schneider, your host tonight, and I'm pretty sure we will have a great time today because we will learn a lot about Portugal. But first things first, where are we here? 5 years ago, in April 2021, something started with a simple but very powerful idea to give young Europeans a voice, to let them show their country, not with any statistics or some tourism agenda, just some real people, real stories, and an honest view about their country and the chance to speak about it with you. And since then, Europe has been presented. Austria, France, Sweden, Switzerland, Poland, Luxembourg, Romania, France, Germany, Italy, Finland, Latvia, all full of personal stories and insights. And tonight we travel to Portugal. And just a very quick spoiler, in April on the 22nd, we will travel to Hungary to meet Daniel. But let's circle back to Mein Europa or Minha Europa. All that is made possible by the amazing team of Europe Direct in Aachen, together with the Institut Français Aachen, the Karlspreis Foundation, Karlspreis Academy, and a lot of other Europe Direct centers. And now it's time that we finally introduce you to our guest. Just kidding. Before we finally introduce you to our guest, let's talk about how it works today. Tiago will present on different topics, take us on a journey through Portugal. In between, we have some interactive parts, and whenever you have a question, just type it in the chat or get the hands up emoji, and we will get to it to really get in the conversation and not have the old school frontal teaching, but a conversation. And dependent on how much we will get carried away, we will finish between 8 and 8:30. In order to properly check that we have the right setting here, let's all test the emojis and the reactions. How about everyone just type whatever reaction you want here in Zoom, because with that we will have some interactive parts beforehand. Perfect. That sounds great. And let me just find the presentation again, because somehow Zoom just got it all got it all in a chaotic manner. There we are. All right. So we will have that. And now it's time to finally meet our guest, Tiago. Tiago, welcome, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Hi, Felix. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like first to thank Ana Luisa for this amazing initiative and Marie as well. And thank you, Felix, for hosting this such an incredible journey this time around my country, Portugal. I don't know if I could start just sharing my presentation. Would it be all right?
Before that, I have something a little prepared
Oh,
in order
yes.
to
Let's
get
go
to
for
know
it.
you a little better, and then we can dive into your presentation.
Yeah.
Are you ready for some rapid fire questions for us all to get to know you a little bit better?
Let's warm up. Let's go.
Perfect. So, are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm an early bird.
Okay. Porto or Lisbon?
Uh, Lisbon. I lived there for many years, so live Lisbon for sure.
Photo or video?
Photo.
Okay. Football fan or just pretending during the World Cup?
Um, I do accompany like Benfica, which is my team in Portugal, and of course the national team as well. So it's an amazing experience to do it outside with everyone. when there's the whole World Cup and the European Cup. So, but I'm not like a big fan of it, like fanatic, like my brother or people that I know, friends that I have. So
Okay, fair enough. Then routine or spontaneity?
I'm more a routine kind of person.
Dogs or cats?
Both. I cannot
Okay.
choose because I have cats and I've had dogs a lot of, since I was a kid. So I've always had both. I cannot choose.
Bacalhau or bifanas?
That's harsh, but I would say Bifana.
The saudade, real emotion or a beautiful excuse to be melancholic?
So that's the real emotion all the way.
Okay. When you're abroad, do you miss the people, the food, or the weather most?
I miss the weather and always missing my people and but the weather for sure. It depends on where you are, but the Portuguese weather for sure. I miss it when I'm abroad.
Okay. Optimist or realist?
I'm more of a realist kind of pessimist, but I try to be as much as optimist as I can, looking at the world and how is it going. I mean, we need to be optimist because realism, it can be tricky.
Absolutely agreed. Last one, city or countryside?
I have both here in the island, so I mean, but I would say city. But it's really like there's no like a difference between them because the island can give you both and Portugal as well. So I mean, but I would say city.
All right. Thanks a lot for the very brief overview. And now it's time to hand over the stage to you to get the presentation going. And I think, speaking for all of us, we're very excited to get to know more about your story, more about your view of Portugal. And let's roll.
Thank you for that. Thank you once again. Let's see if I are you is it are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Thank you. Okay. So, so the topics that I will try to cover in this session, firstly, it's a brief focus on Madeira and the EU outermost regions, journey through some Portuguese characteristic elements, such as a few of like the ones that Felix just went through, which are really interesting. In third place, the Portuguese public opinion on the EU, a contrast between what was Portugal before joining the EU 40 years ago, exactly this year, and what it is today, and an overview, a quick one on the recent political developments in the elections that we had in the country.
One thing in between, could you press on full screen?
Apologies.
It's not full screen.
Oh, it's not?
Zoom threw me under the bus before. Now it does the same thing to you.
Sorry.
Ah, there we are. Now it's
Is
full
it
screen.
okay now? Sorry.
Perfect.
I'm a millennial, so I'm used to technology, but it can be tricky sometimes. Um, So by myself, I'm 33 years old, soon to be actually 34 tomorrow in a few hours. I'm at the moment an alternate member of the Municipal Assembly of Funchal, which is the capital of Madeira, my island, but with the Socialist Party. I have a BA in Political Science and International Relations from Nova in Lisbon, and as well a postgraduate that I just recently finished from between Católica and University of Madeira, and as well in the international studies from ISCTE. My journey has been so far between Funchal, Lisbon, and Brussels, professionally wise. I've been in regional public administration, the European affairs networks, as well in civil organizations in Brussels, among other experiences before. At the moment, launching a new a challenge for me and a new organization to soon to be presented here in the island, which will be Madeira Institute for European Affairs. I will give you a few details on that shortly. That will mainly focus on European literacy, citizenship, and participation, and as well political dialogue between people, academia, and our elective representatives. Um, and as well, I have been a few years back former young ocean advocate for European Commission, where we used to have debates and activities, mostly online because of the pandemic period, regarding the ocean, which as well is, of course, something that it's really important to me. So I would like to so this is an hobby that I have, just to show you a few hobbies that I have. I'm a huge fan and collector of National Geographic since I was a teen, more or less 13, 14 years old. So it's been 20 years that I've been collecting the magazine. I felt passionate about the photography, of course, the text, topics that they focus on, and of course the brands. I mean the thing that you see when once you reach a magazine in a kiosk. And so far, I have more than 1,000 magazines in my collection. When I travel abroad, when I go to other countries, I try to see if there is a local edition, and I grab it, of course. I have as well friends traveling and bringing their, the magazines that they find. So this is like 19 countries so far. Still a lot to reach from Europe and across the world. So it's a challenge. I have many books as well, maps. I mean, it's a really interesting collection that I like to go through and to read about, and I think it's so interesting, and it's a passion that I have. This is a picture from the oldest magazine that I have so far in my collection, and it's from August 1927. So it's almost 100 years old, and it's just a treasure that I like a lot. And
Tiago,
Tia,
sorry, short
yeah.
question in between. I'm still seeing the slide about me.
Oh, that's odd. Is it the connection?
Now I can see it.
Okay. Is it? What are you seeing now? Is it?
Now I see the magazines, thousand
Okay.
plus magazines.
Apologies. I will leave it like this because I think it's getting
Now
I
it
don't know.
works.
Okay. So this is the one that I was telling you about. Um Also as well, I like to cover different literature genre, namely history, of course, politics, and cosmology. This is one big figure that I have like a role model that I have, was Carl Sagan, the author of this amazing book, Cosmos. He died already in 96, unfortunately, and he was a brilliant astronomer, astrophysicist, and an hugely influential science communicator of the 20th century. And it's just, I have his whole collection, more or less, I would say mostly. And it's just a topic that as well I'm passionate about, the cosmos and the universe and the mystery about it, around it. So Madeira is a small island located near the western coast of Africa. It was discovered by the Portuguese, as you know, Portuguese sailors between 1418 and 19. It was possibly known by other people as well. Uh, there's a debate ongoing about who discovered the island first, and probably was not the Portuguese sailors that discovered by mistake in this period. Probably the Phoenicians, nowadays Lebanon, and the Greek fishermen already knew about the islands here. But it was the Portuguese, indeed, the lucky ones to get to claim it at the time. Madeira is an autonomous region since 1976. When we left, so we finally left the fascist regime in 74 with the revolution that I will tell you about. The island has more or less 260,000 inhabitants. It's a small island, just 700 square kilometers. Um, It's actually closer to Morocco than it is to mainland Europe and Portugal, mainland Portugal. It occupies as well this kind of strategic position between Europe and Africa and the Americas. Its economy, it's mostly based on tourism services and regional product as well. It's one of the challenges that I think that the island faces at the moment, such as many different others, which is how to diversify your economy enough to make it attractive, not only to foreigners visiting and investing in the island, but as well Madeiran and Portuguese people that want to come back or stay in the island, which is, I think, is one of the biggest challenges nowadays. It is as well an outermost region from the European Union, and it benefits from the specific status, which is that you can recognize it in the Article 349 of the Treaty of on the functioning of the European Union, and of course faces these unique challenges to these regions, such as remoteness, climate conditions, really particular ones, insularity, and smaller market size. And this is why the EU has this specific design to an article to these regions. And so any law or proposal from the European Commission that is made will always have in idea what are the challenges that these regions face. This is just a map from Madeira, and always located from the Azores Islands, the other Portuguese archipelago, and the Canary Islands as well, further south. Madeira is known for a few decades already as the Pearl of the Atlantic. For the people that doesn't know the island that much, or yet, is a rugged island with volcanic terrain, steepy mountains as well, and deep valleys. We have a dense laurel forest, a Laurisilva forest, located in the north. And as you see here on the picture, this satellite image, it's located mostly on the north side of the island. There is this kind of legend that says that when the Portuguese arrived and by mistake to this island, to Porto Santo, which is the small one for on your right, the gold one, like golden kind of and yellow kind of island. It was considered like a Porto Santo means in Portuguese Saint Harbor or Saint Port, because it was just a shelter for the sailors that were navigating through the Atlantic, and they found it by mistake and they stayed, and now we are here today. So, and as you see, they're so different, the islands, one from the other, kind of different kind of evolutions, geological speaking, and as well. So it's why it's so different, one other island from the other. The capital is this area here that you see on the south side. It has this metropolitan area, and most of the people, of course, live in this area and around the island in the borders, because it's mostly a mountain top of underwater volcano, the island. So it's not so easy to occupy it. And because, of course, we have this forest on the north, we need to protect it, because it's a forest that it's extinct in Europe. There used to be in Europe this kind of forest, but it's just extinct now, and since a few million years ago. And nowadays we have these pockets of the forest in Madeira, Azores as well, and the Canary Islands. This is the island, as you see. One contrast, so these are a few pictures. It's an hobby that I have as well. Pictures that I've taken from my island. It's not to make it jealous, really, but it's really a beautiful island. It's great to call it home. For sure, it's challenging, but it's just a beautiful island. As you see, this area on the left side of the screen, and is in the summertime, it's much more arid than the rest of the island. And this area in the left downside, it's actually the eastern part of the island, and it can be really different from the rest of the island. The north is much more humid and rainy than it is the south. This is why it's so much more green than it is the south of the island. The one to your left, the picture is from Porto Santo. It's a sandy, golden, kind of golden beach. It's also beautiful. This is actually the view from my house. It's a privilege that I can say, of course, this was taken a few years ago. So it's just amazing to wake up every morning when it's sunny and to watch and to look at this. It's just a million euro view that I would call it. This one as well. This is for further west with the sunset. This one's as well. The ones that you see on the right are from the fireworks. I don't know if you are aware of this, but this is the biggest show that we have in Madeira regarding the festivities of Christmas and fireworks. So on the 31st of December, we have the biggest display of fireworks in Europe. It used to be in the Guinness World Record as well. It's just an amazing, and I have the opportunity to watch it from home at almost 500 meters altitude. So it's just an incredible, and we have a lot of cruise ships as well coming from our around, the Mediterranean and the Caribbean just to watch it. And on the left side of the screen, you can see a lot of cruise ships gathering around us already a few hours before midnight, exactly because of the fireworks. And it's just a big event, and you need to watch it at least once in your lifetime. This is what the Madeiran people used to tend to say to visitors. It's just a beautiful show. Recently, I presented my postgraduate final project which focused on the outermost regions and its role on the European Union global strategy, and specifically the role of the autonomous region of Madeira in the Atlantic projection. This was the investigation that I wanted to have, and I intend to go deeper in it in my master's degree as well. So for the ones that are not really so much aware of or informed about the outermost regions, there are 9 at the moment with the specific status. They are 2 regions from Portugal, of course, Canary Islands from Spain, and the rest are the regions from the state of France in the Caribbean, and as well La Réunion, Mayotte, in the Indian Ocean. And so these territories, as I told you before, that are fully part of the EU with the specific status that I told you, with this particular challenge as well. They have indeed challenges, but also great opportunities, such as their strategic allocation, their biodiversity, blue economy, and these measures that are targeted at these islands and regions to make the most out of them and navigate through the challenges that they face permanently. And one of the aspects that I tried to focus on my project was indeed face this kind of what is the value that they bring to the European Union, because most of the time, and as I go through the more technical kind of instruments, such as the papers and the measures that are taken and that are defended by the European Commission and the institutions, most of the time, these kind of regions are not really mentioned in this document regarding its global presence and autonomic strategy. So this was what I intended as well to do with my previous investigation. So the Madeira Institute has this kind of mission to be a think tank based here in the island and focus on the European integration and these topics that I think are really relevant nowadays and anchored as well, of course, in a more Atlantic and outermost regions perspective. This is what I intend to bring as a difference from what is being done so far. Of course, there is a lot of, a few entities here in the island, such as Europe Direct Madeira as well, doing an incredible work, bringing more knowledge and practical knowledge and activities to the people, from all ages. So it's already an important work that they do here in the island as well, the Director General from the government here in Madeira. But I think there is always space to bring more discussion to the table, to engage more with the people. And of course, its mission is to do this. And specifically, uh, to highlight the role and the specificities of the EU outermost regions. Um, so the mission will rely mostly on policy and research, the engagement and with public events, seminars, and training initiatives. I have already a few booked in schools, promoting, of course, critical thinking and active citizenship regarding these topics, and as well the international relations and what is going on nowadays with the world. And I think it's always interesting and important to bring this kind of knowledge to the people of all ages of what is going on, how the EU can position itself regarding these topics, and this so much relevant and impacting and really impacting kind of events that we see nowadays. So I do think it's important to bring it and to share knowledge as well with other outermost regions and across Europe, and as well to have this kind of platform where young researchers such as I am and academic work can be gathered and discussed and debated. And I do think it's interesting to have this kind of platform here in the island because I mean there's so many people from international relations and politics such as I am, and there's no space actually to discuss about these topics and do it in a more informal way sometimes. So I think it's interesting to have this kind of initiatives.
Thanks a lot.
So I will pause here.
Yes, perfect translation to part two. Because first of all, we still have to get to know our audience, and second of all, I mean, this could be exactly the forum to discuss some of these questions. So, in case any one of you currently listening or watching, if you have any questions, just raise your hand or type it in the chat. We are there for the conversation, and maybe that's a starter on what exactly you just told us about. And in order to get to know everyone a little bit better, let's just work with the reactions. For the first one, let's just say everyone can use every emoji because you can just either you were in Portugal or not. If you have been to Portugal so far, then please do any reaction you want. Okay, I see a few. We are with 4, 5. Perfect. And to circle it a little bit closer, who has been to Madeira?
That's a good question.
But we have two. Perfect.
Very
So
nice.
that means you can do a lot of advertisement to get people to finally visit Madeira. And I think the pictures with you saying, "Hey, that I don't want to make you jealous," that did not work.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I'm but I'm glad. I'm glad.
All right. And we already got a bit of a spoiler since Portugal is the next topic, and let's dive a little bit before we dive deeper into Portugal on a few things. Maybe some people have heard about Portugal or Portuguese, and Tiago, I would really like to know your take on some of the cliches that we may have heard, both positive, funny, or negative. And let's roll through some and hear what you have to. What's your take on those? First of all, almost everyone is named João, Miguel, Maria, or Ines.
So would you like a comment on that?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I am myself João as well. So I think it makes sense to say it. Miguel, I would not, but Maria for sure. I mean, up until a few years ago, João and Maria, it's a common feminine name across, internationally. And I would say as well, of course, they are quite common. Inish, it's my niece's name actually, which is a beautiful name. But yeah, I would say it's a valid. But nowadays we have so many options because like Francisco, like Francis, and But I
Mhm.
would agree with this. Yeah, I can
Okay.
say it's correct.
Then off to the next one. You actually already know this one. Portuguese are passionate.
I can agree 150%. I mean, it's within our culture and everything that we do, we feel we have emotions in our skin and everywhere. So yeah, it's not a cliche. I mean, it's there is base in this kind of cliche. Yeah, there is facts around it.
Okay. Then let's go into the next one. Punctuality isn't a national strength.
It's not. I can agree 150% as well on this. It's not. And actually, on my side, personally, what I do to make it better on this side, it's to I usually have my clock 10 minutes before. So at the moment, I have 10 minutes uh, ahead. So and it works for me.
Nice.
So this
You
is a
just have to find the solutions for the
This
problem.
is yeah, this is the strategy that I adopted when I was living in like when I was in university. So I already did it years ago. So I do my best to have it in my devices.
Okay, perfect. Then off to the next one. Portuguese. Well, everyone assumes that Portuguese people speak Spanish.
I mean, yeah, I think it's also, internationally speaking, people do tend to think that Portuguese is Spanish, but it's so different.
Mhm.
Uh, But I can agree on a personal level on this because I never learned Spanish in my life, and I can speak Spanish because it's so similar. And I already and actually, when I was a teen, I was buying National Geographic in Spanish being sold here in Portugal and in the island as well, and on the mainland and here. So I was already reading, and we are so exposed to Spanish culture and music, and like the Brazilian Portuguese as well here in the country. So, but yeah, a lot of people do think that, and we have this in between, which is we call Portuñol, which is Portuguese and Espanol and Spanish. So the Portuguese like to go around and do their best to, even if it's not Spanish, it can be close with the accent. So yeah, it's funny to see people trying and having so many mistakes because they are still in fact two different languages. So you cannot make what it happened. I have a direct connection between a Portuguese word. Most of them are actually close or the exact same word for many examples, but not all the time.
And we have the same in German. We call it Denglish when you mix German and English. So you have that as well. Okay, last one. Lunch takes 2 hours.
It can take 2 hours. I mean, depending on the way the day is going, your company, but it can take up to 2 hours for sure. So
Okay.
I would agree with that. It
I
depends on the situation.
okay. I will definitely hope for the 2 hour lunches when I visit Portugal. And all right, that has given us a few more insights, both about you, but also about Portugal. And this also gives us the chance to move back to you. So, Tiago, you have something more prepared, and I think we're gonna dive deeper into Portugal, right?
Yes, let's do it. So, just a few topics here of interest about Portugal, really quickly. The Republic flag, which is the one that you see nowadays, it was not always like this. When the country was first started, the kingdom in the 11th, 12th century, we had actually, which is nowadays Finland's flag. So it's quite interesting to see the evolution of it. And the blue and white color, as I would say, the official colors of Portugal, somehow nowadays are still present within our represented, like our Portuguese and public actors and political actors. And I mean, the garment that they use, like the tie and everything, they tend to focus as well on this kind of, the background of the country. But of course, the Republican flag is the one that we recognize the most today, and the official one. This is a short part of the poem from Luís Vaz de Camões, which is the biggest poet from Portugal. He was born in the 16th century, 16th, 15th century. And here he says, here is United Europe contained in this fourth part of the world where the land ends and the sea begins. Os Lusíadas, which is this poem, was written by him in 1572, and it's considered the masterpiece of the Portuguese literature. It's this kind of epic poem that narrates Vasco da Gama's voyage to India, um, using this feat as a guiding thread to celebrate the history and achievements of the Portuguese people that I see are seen by the poet as a collective hero. Nowadays, his remains are located in Jerónimos Monastery, which is in Lisbon, which is a beautiful monument that you can visit. And this is the poet. And it's quite common to have chiefs of staff and presidents from the world visiting when they visit Lisbon. It's quite common to have them visiting its remains, its tomb, and pay respect. And you have an example of the Macron, the president from France, and and the first lady. As well, to speak of Portugal is to speak of Fado, and you cannot speak of Fado without mentioning Amália Rodrigues, which is our biggest diva and Fado singer. Died unfortunately in 1999. I mean, she would be one of these kind of people that needs to live forever, I would say, and the Portuguese would be very much happy to have her forever for sure. Fado is this very Portuguese kind of soulful music, popular from the neighborhoods in Lisbon, and it is recognized as well nowadays as a UNESCO heritage. And it's just this feeling of saudades. Felix was telling us about this Portuguese word with no direct translation, but it's just this word of feeling to be nostalgic and missing someone, a place, or something that you like a lot. These are a few pictures that I have, sorry to make it jealous again, that I've taken from in Lisbon, which is a city that I love. I lived there for many years, working and studying, and from Porto as well, which is a beautiful city in the north. It's called Invicta. So a few statistics from Portugal. The country is nowadays with 10.6 millions, but many more people, Portuguese people around the world. To speak of Portugal, of course, is to speak of a nationality whose diaspora spread around the world. And in this graphic here, you see the Portuguese and where they are located mostly, being France in Europe, the country that hosts the most Portuguese of first and second born in Portuguese descent people, with 1,500,000 people, and Brazil as well, a big destination of the Portuguese. Around the world, regarding the Madeira specifically, our biggest communities nowadays and since decades ago are in France, the UK as well, Brazil, Venezuela, and South Africa and Australia as well. And when we had this crisis recently with the Venezuelan people, the Portuguese people and Madeiran specifically had this huge responsibility to make them feel welcome in their home country and their um, places that they were born years ago, and their descent as well, their kids and their grandkids. So the Portuguese did their best to accommodate them and have them feel welcomed and safe from the crisis happening in Venezuela. This is a map that shows you, which is nowadays the Portuguese EEZ, the exclusive economic zone, with this extended area being the proposal that the Portuguese holds at the moment since 2009 the United Nations. And if it's valid, it's a valid a green light from the United Nations, it will be the Portuguese space of in the Atlantic, and its size will be 40 times bigger than it is on land. And this is how important it is to look at archipelagos and their strategic position that they hold for Portugal, the Azores and the Madeira archipelagos. Of course, to speak of Portugal is to speak of maritime adventure. It's like 600 years ago it started. Of course, it's to speak as well of many things that were terribly done, and but we are looking at something that was done with the at the time mentality, of course, namely slavery. Portugal was the people, the European power, starting to this kind of commerce between Angola and nowadays Namibia, and the slavery route was started by the Portuguese to Brazil and the Americas. So of course, it's a legacy that we have, and nowadays people try to discuss and think about it, and which is important, of course, to look at in perspective. But of course, the Portuguese are at the same time more or less proud of what was achieved by this such a small country, like looking at in the map, and with only 1 million people at the time, and to be able to reach, to inaugurate this kind of European travels to around Africa, and being the first ones to do it across, and to cross the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, and reach a safe travel to India. Of course, it's remarkable and something something interesting to think about. These were the boats that the Portuguese had to discover my island, for example, which is, I mean, I think it's just crazy to think of do such a thing nowadays, to be brave enough to face the Atlantic and reach these places around the world, and in this kind of boats. I mean, it's something that I cannot comprehend how it was done, but yeah, this is us. I mean, the Portuguese tiles. This is astrolabe that was discovered in the coast of Oman from 1503, and this is a Portuguese invention as well, from the time that helped the navigators to look at the sky and face the ocean with more knowledge and expertise. And I would like to present you briefly a few modern history moments from that, more or less changed Portugal in the most recent time, namely in the 20th century. We have first the establishment of the Republic regime in 1910 that ended 800 years of monarchy in the country. And after that, we have, of course, the fastest regime from Salazar, the Estado Novo regime, starting in 1933, and being at the same time that Hitler rise to power in Germany, and finishing it and ending in 1974. So, and under his leadership, Portugal, of course, faced an incredible and terrible decades of authoritarian rules and a lot of censorship and political police, such as speed, and of course, its international being isolated from internationally, which, in my opinion, was bad for the country at the time. The colonial war, was devastated as well to the Portuguese people, having a lot of Portuguese men being taken to Angola, Guinea-Bissau, and Mozambique to fight its people. And just because, the fascist regime was holding to this colonial interests in Africa, long after Brazil taken independence. And of course, we, internationally speaking, we're already having this decolonization process happening, but the Portuguese were the last ones to face it as a reality and to agree with it. So, of course, we had this terrible war that left many wounded and killed, and it was just terrible, a real terrible thing to do to the country and to its people. And finally, the Carnation Revolution, which is Revolução dos Cravos, that happened in 25th of April of 1974. It was this military coup taken by officers that finally freed the country to modernization and to liberty and freedom. This is the lady that unfortunately already died, Celeste Caeiro. She was the lady behind these flowers that were placed on their machine guns and the tanks, and it became a symbol in 74 to the Portuguese. And the flower just became a symbol of the revolution and of peace to everyone. And she was the woman behind it, which is so interesting to think of someone so simple at the time and young to be able to change and to make an impact, a lasting impact in the country. And of course, the Carnation Revolution, Revolução dos Cravos, is seen as the major and the most defining moment in modern Portuguese history that allowed the country to begin its process of democracy and as a free country. And of course, Portugal joining the EU in 86. And finally, the end of the global empire that happened in 75. And with this, we have the example of Macau, the territory in China, which was the last one to be given back to its original people. And this happened in 1999 with this ceremony between Portugal and the Republic of China at the time. And finally, when Portugal enters the EEC in 86. Of course, this process between 76, 74, and then with the constitution in 76 was the one that the country needed to develop itself and make the changes needed to finally join the economic European community and modernize the country as it was much needed. And then the euro in 2002, of course. And the Lisbon Treaty was as well of much significance to the country under the Portuguese presidency of the Council of the EU, and it's nowadays still so much important to the European Union, the Lisbon Treaty, and the changes that it brought to the project. I would maybe interrupt here.
Perfect. Thank you for the broad overview. And I don't know about all you guys, but I have definitely learned something new. And I'm really excited to the direction we will be going afterwards, because this has been from the start to, well, kind of today where how we landed where we are. Thank you for those insights. And for everyone listening, watching, now is the time to put the, let's say, things you learned to the test. Because I will share my screen and we will play a little game in order to see if you are able to say this is Portugal or this is not Portugal. And afterwards, we will dive back into some more insights and stories Tiago has for us. And Tiago, of course, you are very welcome to, because you don't know the pictures either. So please, everyone, just play the game with us. And in order to do so, if you think it is Portugal, then you do the heart reaction, just with the reactions on your Zoom. If you think it is not Portugal, then show us the fire reaction. Oh no, fire is not in the standard. Then let's go with the rocket. The rocket is there. So rocket for not Portugal and the heart for Portugal. And the first one might be a simple one. Is it Portugal? If yes, then go for the heart. We see a lot of hearts. If not, then go for. Ah, there is no rocket I can see. So let's go with a laughing smiley if you don't think it is Portugal. But everyone guessed right. This is absolutely Portugal. You were all right. Let's go to the next one. A little bit more difficult. Depending on your hobbies, you might know it though. Heart for Portugal, laughing smiley for not Portugal. We see a lot of hearts. Quite sure. Then let's see. And yes, this is Portugal. This is where the biggest waves in the world are being surfed, and the current world record is even being held. Nazaré in Portugal. And what we've seen before was a yellow tram in Lisbon. But I'm pretty sure you know that. Okay. Now, is this Portugal, a heart for Portugal, or the laughing smiley for not Portugal? I see a lot of laughing smileys. Haven't seen a heart yet. And that is absolutely correct. This is the Amalfi Coast in Italy. And the next one, let's go to the animal kingdom. Is this in Portugal or is this somewhere else in the world? Heart for Portugal and laughing smiley for not Portugal. Okay, we have now a mixture. So the first one where you're not all of one opinion, and it's actually Portugal. Portugal has free roaming wolves. The Iberian wolf lives there, and a lot of people don't know that, and I'm glad you did not have all the same opinion. So the game would be much too easy. Let's see what we have as the next one. Maybe there are even some hints in the picture. Okay, we have one who is saying this is not Portugal. We have one Portugal, or two, three votes for not Portugal. We have three votes for Portugal. All right, so let's see. And this is Spain. This is the old town in Sevilla. Since a lot of Portuguese are asked if they speak Spanish, we had to include some Spanish cities here. And let's go to that incredible picture. Whoever took that, and I actually can tell you who took that, I just have to look. But is this Portugal or not? Okay, we have two, we have a tie right now. It's not a tie anymore. We have three votes for Portugal, three against. Okay. So let's see. This is Portugal. This is a beautiful San Acetes is Acetes is the name. It's a beautiful island in front of the African coast. And the next one, we have a lot of flags, but where are the flags at that moment given in time? Okay, we have one who says it is not Portugal. Two votes for Portugal. Three. Okay, and this is actually Portugal. You were exactly right. This is during a European, I think the European Championships, but I'm not 100% sure. It wasn't 100% conclusive. But let's get to the second to last Portugal or not. I think we all heard some stories. Is this in Portugal or is this not in Portugal? I'm very glad that the trap worked. These are stocks in the Czech Republic, but we all know during the winter, stocks love to travel to Portugal. So that was quite the setup. Let's go with the last one. Some festivities. We have a tie. We're currently still at the tie. And the answer is it is not Portugal, but quite close to the outermost regions. This is on the Canary Islands. All right. And with that, the small intermission is over, and I think most of you did quite well. So in a lot of the pictures, you were on the right track, but I'm glad that the difficulty seemed to step up. And we also step up the difficulty because we have heard about Tiago, we have heard about Portugal and the history, and now we are diving into some more deeper topics. And I guess it's time to hand over the stage back to you, Tiago.
Let's go for it. So I arranged a few graphics that I do know and I've researched before for other purposes. And I've taken them from Pordata, which is this public service database in Portugal that compiles this official statistics on Portugal and Europe. And it's from this foundation, Francisco Manuel dos Santos, which is a very reputed one. And I provide this accurate and unbiased and easy understandable information. And I liked to, I took the opportunity to bring them since you can have this kind of comparison between Portugal, what was Portugal before 74 or in 74 precisely when we left the fascist regime and having in comparison what it is Portugal now. And of course, this was possible because Portugal indeed joined the economic exclusive zone in 86, and a lot of has changed. So let's dive a bit into those results. The population has changed, of course, between 74 and 2023 for this one. And its profile, I mean, it's getting older, and by genre and by stage in life. And of course, people is getting older, and but this is a common aspect to most of Western and if not worldwide nations. Half of the babies are born at the moment, and the mortality rate is, of course, the lowest ever. I mean, so far. Women became becomes mother 6 years later than it used to happen at 24 years old in 75 to an average of 30 years old for the women to have their first son in 2023, with the medium result of, I mean, child between them for every woman of just 1.44, and is making the country one of the oldest in the world regarding its population, which is, of course, with the challenge that the Portuguese people and the nation and the politicians face nowadays. Seniors gain 7 years of life expectancy, 20 more years nowadays from regarding looking at 74. The number of foreigners increased 24 times, most of them coming from Europe, the Americas, and Asia. We have nowadays in 2022, I think it's bigger now. 7.5% of the population is of foreign backgrounds. Families, of course, are becoming smaller. This is as well a result of modernity and what is happening in the country, and being less and less nowadays. Schooling has become universal, and if we look at the numbers in 74, a lot of people didn't knew at the time how to read and how to write, and this is, of course, an important instrument to any nation, to any civilization, which is education. And of course, in the fascist regime, the leaders wanted to, I mean, the people, I mean, education was a privilege to just a few people, like voting was before women gained the rights, of course, to vote. But it was just a privilege of a minority, of an elite. And so, or the people that had more possibilities within their families to pay for an education. So, of course, in 74, the situation in Portugal was very much different than it is nowadays, when we reach nowadays almost 100% for every level of education in the country, up until from preschool up until high school. But the number of schools diminished as well, and this is problematic because the country is facing like a desert inside mostly when we look at the border with Spain. The denser areas of the country, of course, are on the coast, namely Porto area, Lisbon area, the Algarve, and in some way in the autonomous regions. But of course, people tend to leave the interior of the country and find more opportunities or to live on the coast. And this is, of course, a major challenge in the country nowadays. And not only in Portugal, but in Europe in general, this happens as well, depending on where's the capital in the country. But in Portugal, this exodus that happens, it's from the interior, closer to Spain, to the coast. And this, of course, it's something that needs to be stopped in some way and make it more interesting and good to live in the country, in the rural areas, in the countryside. And this is of the most relevant, of big relevance to the Portuguese people and its leaders. So it's something that it's being, it needs to be, it's still a challenge, ongoing challenge. It needs to be changed. 5 more people in the university level, which is the size. Of course, it's of the most importance to the country, and the women nowadays are the majority when looking at university level, which is something that we all need to be proud of, and specifically Portugal in this situation. The economy is much more dependent on the third sector, which is services and commerce. When looking at in comparison to 74, with less and less agriculture, fisheries, and industry, which is of course a huge challenge to the country because of this situation. We need to, and Europe overall speaking, needs to be more competitive, and we are losing it to other countries and geopolitical powers. So, of course, Portugal is following this kind of tendency to invest less and less in its industry and its natural resources, and focus more on the commerce. And I do not think that this is the way for the economies and specifically for Portuguese. I would say it's important to invest in the resources that we have. And we are so well located in here. So tourism is much more international now, and with figures that we never seen before in the country. When looking in comparison to 74. Many more highways in the country, looking in comparison to 74, but less and less train tracks, which is as well um, um, a picture and the window to what is going on, the investment in the interior of the country. And nowadays, the European Commission just recently showed its plan to connect Lisbon to Madrid until 2034. I think it's the deadline to connect with the high-speed train. But it's just coming, I mean, late to the country. I mean, because, of course, Europe and the European Commission and the institutions are doing their best to connect and to connect with the highway, with the high-speed trains. Europe, which is super important for all of us. But of course, this kind of the investment happening in the last few decades in the country, it's really challenging for us, the Portuguese, that want to feel connected by train and by land with the rest of Europe, and not only by plane. Much more health professionals nowadays than in 75. Less people dying of heart diseases. The movement in the airports went high, just like it happens internationally as well. The consumption of fuels as well is portrayed here. The way we dealt with trash in 74 is much more different than the way we deal with it nowadays in 2026. And of course, recycling and it's nowadays implemented across the country, and that this is of the utmost important. But you see in 74, 100% of trash went to landfills, which is just something terrible to do. The number of houses duplicated as well. More parties and women in parliament, which is really good. uh, in comparison to 76 once we have our democratic constitution and the autonomous system implemented in the archipelagos in Madeira and the Açores, and much more parties nowadays. But in the opposite way, more than 40% of the voters no longer go to the polls, which is very much challenging. And this is as well a challenge in the European elections in the country where we have huge absence of people voting. And this is challenging because someone will vote for us. And so we all need to, someone will vote for us, someone will decide for us. And it can happen that it's not the best result for the country. So this is a challenge that the politicians in the country, but everyone, I would say it's a challenge for everyone around the country and around Europe as well to have people vote. And we indeed had an increase of participation in the last European elections, which were good. So let's do our best, everyone, and in our own lives and local communities and with our people and around us to change this tendency. Looking at this 50 years of democracy, of course, the Portuguese people acknowledge that the country has improved in almost every dimension, as you've seen before. And this is a graphic that shows where people do think that the country got better in education, the way of living, protection towards the environment, housing, social security, uh, justice, not so much, but indeed where the people, the perception of people that were consulted, like that participated in this inquiry, um, the Portuguese tend to think that it got worse looking at criminality and insecurity and the level of corruption. And I do think this has a correlation with these rising political powers more to the right that tend to have this kind of topics in their agendas, in their daily agendas. So I do think there is a relation between all these factors. But indeed, overall speaking, the Portuguese acknowledge that this evolution that we had since 74, since the revolution, it's mostly due to our participation and joining the EU and all the benefits that we had possible for us in the last 50 years. This is a graphic from Eurostat, super interesting as well on the Portuguese. And of course, here, this one Eurobarometer from 2021 shows that the Portuguese in Europe are among the ones that has the highest perception of how the country has benefited from being a member of the EU. Only after Ireland, I would say. It's Portugal and then Denmark. Um, Lithuania as well, super high, 91. So it's after Lithuania, which is interesting. And you can perceive that the Portuguese indeed see and acknowledge how much has changed since the fascist regime. But we still, of course, have a journey to ahead. And 73% of Europeans believe that their country benefited from joining the EU, which is on average, and Portugal here in 89%, and among the Portuguese, among the most satisfied with the EU membership. This is a headline from a Portuguese newspaper. Portugal is the second most trusting member state in the EU review study, and the data comes from the new Eurobarometer. It's being public every year, which aims to analyze the perception of the European citizens regarding the EU actions in the field of defense, this one specifically. And this regards the risks that the Portuguese perceive and two differences regarding the medium, the average results on the EU, as is here. Cyber attacks, natural catastrophes among the highest, the migratory influx and the uncontrolled ones, which I think it's quite interesting because Portugal is not really in the route of migratory routes towards Europe. So I would have in my opinion, it relies on the perception of the people and not really what is happening in the country, because in fact, Portugal is not one of the destinations. And we do have these protocols with Germany and Greece and Italy and Spain and other European countries receiving migrants from North of Africa, from the Middle East. But it really relies on the perception and the rise of this kind of political parties that do tend to have a culprit on the migration, which is not really a challenge to the Portuguese people nowadays. Of course, we have immigrants, mostly from Brazil, from the Portuguese African countries, Ukrainians as well, since a few decades ago, that are super and well implemented and living in the country with their kids as well. So migration is not really like, but of course, the perception relies on this statistics as well. This graphic on how the young people feel about the European Union. The Portuguese rank here one of the highest regarding if they're in favor of or not, but in favor of the EU and the way it's working at the present. This one that I found quite interesting, whether if there would or not have there should be an European army, and the Portuguese say that 79% are in favor. So despite being so far from the conflicts in Ukraine and the world being brought back to Europe, unfortunately, we do accompany what is going on. We do see on the news daily what is going with the tragic, with the Russian invasion in the Ukraine, and nowadays the crisis, a terrible crisis in the Middle East and in Africa as well, and all around the world. So regarding the European army, the Portuguese are mostly in favor, which is interesting. And I would stop here.
Thanks for that deep dive and the insights. And yeah, it's really interesting to see, especially how it turned, and the also the openness and the, let's say, welcoming part for to the European Union. It's really nice to see, and I feel that is not covered enough, because I think a lot of European countries, they know Portugal is there, they also know other countries are there, but have no clue on where they stand, where the opinion is. Maybe even politicians don't reflect the opinion of most people in quite some times. And that's great to see in numbers. So it's nothing to, let's say, discuss how welcoming the Portuguese population is regarding the European Union and how perceived the value is. I think that a lot of countries can learn from that. Thank you for those insights. And we won't get too far from that topic in the next part. Before we do that, in order to lighten it all up a bit, because I mean, super interesting, but we all know that the more detailed the topic, the harder it is. Therefore, we have some questions for you, Tiago, in order to better understand Portugal, Madeira, and well, Portuguese people, because when you come somewhere as a, for example, as a tourist, you always have different experiences. You make different memories than someone who's from there, seeing it for the thousandth time. And what we are doing now is to, well, get to know you a bit better, but also Portugal by asking you how was it when you had it, saw it, met it for the first time, and how it was after a couple times, after every time. So let's start with something you might have encountered first when you were quite the young child. So the first time you tried bacalhau versus now versus every time. How was it?
It's actually interesting because bacalhau, it's for sure a traditional ingredient. The codfish that we have a lot in our tables around the year, but we are not fishing them in our shores. So we go to Norway to have our traditional fish, which is quite interesting. So far across Europe, the Portuguese, and we import so much bacalhau because we need it. It's like chocolate or whatever, you know. So, bacalhau for me, in from my perspective, which is, I mean, it's common in Portugal, of course, from north in on the islands as well, and it's common. We have many recipes, like 1,000 different recipes with bacalhau. But the thing is, bacalhau for me it means Christmas, but it's not Christmas for everyone because my mother's side are from the north of the country, which is Braga district, which is 1 hour north from Porto. And in Christmas, of course, throughout the country, even if it's a small country, we have many different recipes for Christmas time and Christmas Eve. And but bacalhau for me means Christmas, but it's not Christmas. It's not the same Christmas for everyone because the recipes can change in the islands and as well on the mainland. So bacalhau for me sounds and feels like Christmas because it's a recipe from the north, from my mom's side, and my grandparents were from Braga. So I mean, it's still the same flavor, and it's not nostalgic, and it feels like it's a family. It's like family, bacalhau for me.
Nice. It's I think that hits for most of us, maybe even every one of us, very hard at home because we all you make me think straight to a meal that my mom always did. And I try to recreate it. No chance. Absolutely no chance. All right, off to the next one. From Bacalhau, we are moving to Lisbon. You lived there for some time. How was it when you got to Lisbon for the very first time, basically as a tourist there, versus how was it then every other time then?
So I visited Lisbon when I was still a baby, like a kid, because I had family there. So Lisbon never really felt like a touristic destination. So it was much more easy to move to Lisbon once I finished high school on the island in Funchal and moved to Lisbon to study and then to work there. So it felt like a second home for me, actually. So of course, I was visiting as a tourist when I was a kid and like growing up and as a teenager and young adult, of course, and I was excited for the monuments that we have there. And that excitement never left because I lived there and I was always going around and trying to visit a new palace, a new location, archaeological, because Lisbon is on top of this Roman capital of thousands of years ago. And other cultures were in Lisbon already before the Portuguese, like as we are nowadays. So of course, there's always something to and a new layer to find out about. So it's always interesting, and now as more or less as a tourist, when I visit Lisbon, it's always interesting, and there's always some new place to visit.
And to throw in some random information, and I hope I don't say something wrong now, but I think Lisbon is actually older than Rome. Isn't that? I think
I mean,
because
it can be because I mean I'm not sure if it is, but Lisbon is one was I mean one of Lusitania was one of the provinces of Rome and in Iberia. So and Lisbon it used to be like Phoenician. I mean Lisbon has been like a capital for many cultures before, like what we know nowadays as the Portuguese people. So I mean it's back like
400 years older than Rome.
I mean, it's interesting to think about it and looking at what we know about Rome and yeah, but Lisbon has been like layer of, and if you dig something in downtown Lisbon, you for sure will find artifacts and archaeological, like make it as an archaeological site of Roman and previous occupations. So it's something that people need to respect and the local authorities as well, for sure,
Absolutely.
as it's
All
there.
right. Sorry?
Because it's there, you know. Uh,
Yes.
there were people already in there before um, Portugal, the Portuguese. So, and
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a couple cities in Germany where that's a problem as well when you want to buy something new, build something new. But let's get back to first time versus every time. And before it was going somewhere, and now how did it change over time leaving Madeira and coming back?
it's interesting. I mean, I was living in Lisbon so for this many years, so I was traveling back and forth, and it always felt special. And this is something that the islanders feel more than the mainlanders, I would say, like the Portuguese from the mainland, which is I had so many friends and colleagues in university traveling often to their houses on the weekends to their villages or to their locations on the greater Lisbon area. And, and for us, the islanders, we're not able to do it that often because we needed a plane to reach the islands. And this is still something that people from the islands do feel that it's challenging. And every measure that it's being discussed nowadays at the European level and on national level as well, need to have this in consideration because our mean of transport is airplane and solely that one, and which is I think it's a huge mistake in the country. Sorry to diverse the answer, but it's so relevant still nowadays uh, to go and come back to the island and the challenges that we face. And so any kind of discussion that needs and measure that needs to be implemented at European level, and this is why we have European Parliament members discussing this and bringing this to the table. And this is why I feel it's so important to discuss the outermost regions. It's precisely because of this. And I do think it's a really relevant kind of question on your side. So well done, Felix, on choosing this specific because it's really, really important. And just to give you a perspective, the Portuguese nowadays don't have any mean of transport uh, by sea between the islands and the mainlands. In the opposite, the Spaniards, so the Spanish people do have this kind of means in the Canarias Islands, the Balearic Islands as well in the Mediterranean, and between with the mainland. So I do think, I mean, it's in, it's quite interesting and odd to think that the Portuguese with two archipelagos don't have this connection by sea and only by plane. So to give you a response, but more personal one, it's always nice to come back to the island and sometimes challenging as well because our airport is quite tricky. I don't know if you know about this, but our runway is quite short. It's bigger now, but we have wind conditions as well, and it can be challenging. But I can assure you that only the best pilots, and they need like a specific training on their companies to be able to land on our airports. So don't feel so frightened about it. Only the best land in the islands.
That is very good to know, and we should take some precautionary measures that people who are afraid of flying should not hear that.
Okay,
The
intense.
surprise gets better. Um, we have one question from our audience, and you mentioned a few topics that gives us a perfect transition to it. So the question was, what about the discussion of over tourism as a severe problem for local people? And I believe that the answer is quite different also for people on the islands versus people on the mainland, right?
For sure. I mean, Portugal, overall speaking, faced a boom in tourism since a decade ago. The country suddenly became so famous. And I mean, it's a good thing, of course, because we have so many good things to explore. The country is beautiful, the food, the weather, and the people are amazing, of course. Uh, but looking at a regional level, the island faces many challenges. And nowadays, it's a growing discussion among politicians here and the population because Madeira as well, it's so famous nowadays. And not because of Cristiano. Cristiano, of course, is our big ambassador and star from the island, but the people just are, the Europeans often come here, like the British, the Germans, the French, and we have a lot of cruise ships as well, and a lot of travel, like airplane travels and records year after year, looking at the amount of people coming and tourists, and it's a really, really like a huge debate going. And for example, there
I think the connection is losing a little bit.
the politicians like government, local government
Tiago,
is
I think
implement
I
for
think your connection is there you're
sorry,
back. Perfect.
sorry. So
Now,
it's a challenge for sure, looking at the infrastructure and of course the forest that we need to preserve here in the islands. So measures are being taken right now to take in consideration and to take this in consideration. But since it's so touristic, the model that the government here is trying to pursue, I would say that it needs to be more on the kind of tourism that the Madeiran people had before this mass tourism that started since a few decades ago. Because Madeira, at the beginning of being like as a touristic destination, started to be like a health destination for people from Europe coming here to improve their diseases like tuberculosis. So Madeira started to be this kind of destination, like for medicine and for well-being, and this is the beginning, like since 200 years ago, of tourism in the island. And of course, the reasons nowadays are different, but it's a challenge for sure.
thank you for the overview. And I think that gives us the perfect transition to the very last part and the very few last slides you have, right? Because
Yeah.
we are already a bit over the time, but I mean we after our first talks there was something we could have thought. There's so many interesting and exciting things to talk about.
Mm.
So back to you.
So just to reach this final part of my overview of my country. And these are the parties that we have nowadays in the country, very much different from this kind of assembly in Lisbon that we had from 76 up until a few years ago, when we mostly had the center right party, which is PSD in the lead, and as well the Socialist Party. And nowadays, this is the seats that we have in this assembly in Lisbon, with being the second, the biggest party, the second one after the coalition between the Christians like side and the center right side as well, which being Partido Chega, which is the far right party that started in 2019 in the country, and the socialist being nowadays the third biggest one. This is the sixth presidents that we had in democracy since 76 until our most recent election for António José Seguro. So it has been this kind of bipartisan way between PS, which is the Socialist Party, and the Social Democrat one. And the most recent elected was José Seguro, which is a socialist. And on the European level, the parties more nowadays in the parliament, the Greens, Livre, which is like a socialist, like a left one, Liberal Initiative relies on Renew Europe, the communists as well, and the far left, and socialists for S&D, of course, and EPP for the Democratic Alliance, and Chega, which is the far right and populist party in EID. These were the results in the country between the first run and the most recent political presidential election, between the first run and the second one. It was the first time in 40 years that the country, I mean, since 40 years ago, there were not a second run to elect a new president in the democratic regime. So these elections were, of course, so important. And the candidate they won at the first and second run was José Seguro, fortunately for me, of course, and for most of the population. But what I could say about this is that, of course, many Portuguese nowadays feel disconnected, feel anguished, and with more or less like this like cold feelings, and really what I would say, like not really happy with the way things are going, economically speaking, and looking at the prices of housing nowadays, the wages as well, which are really low comparing to other nations in Europe. And we had this 50 years of democracy so far, and a lot should be better. And I do think that part of this kind of votes that tend to like the people voting tend to go and feel more connected to the far right parties, namely Chega, which is this phenomenon from this leader André Ventura, a populist leader, well connected to other populist and far right leaders in Europe, such as Le Pen, Orban as well, Vox in Spain, in Italy as well, the Trump Republican Party, I would say, in the US and in Brazil as well, with Bolsonaro movement. So this kind of connected leader, just portraying himself as like this messiah, sorry to say this, but as this kind of savior to the country. And people tend to vote on this kind of ideas, extreme ideas, in a way because they feel angry about what is going badly in the country. And nowadays, of course, with social media, with AI, and this narrative that we need to deconstruct on the national level, but on the European level as well. Of course, it's a challenge. And there are many factors that bring people, the Portuguese in this specific analysis, in the specific case, to vote for this kind of candidates. And actually, the Madeiran Islands elected. So the Madeirans voted more on the first run to elect Ventura, but on the second term, the second run, of course, the rest of the people that didn't vote for Seguro, actually, most of the people decided that this would be the best candidate, and in my opinion, they were right because Seguro is well connected with the Portuguese ruling system. He knows the constitution, and for many people, this was what was at stake in these elections. Which is the best candidate that will first make an oath on the constitution and have this oath to respect it, and then represent us all. So if you Google in these topics, for sure you will find many discussions about this. And but I do think that the Portuguese went for the best candidate possible. That life was a professor, and he has his background is as well political science and international relations, and he used to be like many years ago the leader of the Socialist Party, but then he lost to actually Antonio Costa, which was our prime minister and nowadays the president of the European Council, and then he just left the political um, participation to be a professor and to engage in other personal activities. And he came back recently to be a new candidate, and he definitely won. And he was with the biggest votes in democracy in Portugal. So the biggest number of votes, which was a good thing to see. And just to quote on is when he just was nominated as the new Portuguese president. Recent history reveals that in a very short time, what was built over centuries is destroyed. We believed in the solidity of institutions and the resilience of our value system. A mistake, and in an instant, these pillars are being crumbled. Taking care of democracy has become, in these new times, an urgent task to which the President of the Republic will dedicate himself by duty and by conviction. So to discuss this kind of things like such as democracy and taking care of it, it it do show like it shows that what is going on as well in Portugal. And up until recently, when I was still in Lisbon, Portugal was more or less seen as a case study internationally because we had no far-right party represented in our parliament. And the thing changed. And Portugal, opposite to other nations in Europe, was the only one without a representation in the parliament from the far right political powers. And the thing, of course, changed with Chega in 2019. So, but it's interesting to think that in Portugal was seen as this phenomenon because populism and extremism was not represented and was not like deep in the hearts of the people. But the thing unfortunately changed. And of course, the new president has this idea of what is going on in the country and internationally as well. So he had this wise words, in my opinion, in his inauguration. And lastly, as well, the future is not written, is built with work. A new time begins. Now, of course, this is a political discourse. It's time to abandon this kind of nostalgia and the repetition of the past. And this is the nostalgia that is speaking about this kind of ideas that some Portuguese have, that when in the fascist time, life was better, but it was not. And I have shown you so many graphics and that do portray this kind of idea that the Portuguese feel much better in democracy and much better in the European project and being part of it and a vital part of it. So this would be the message that I wanted to bring you today. And if you'd like to keep in touch, just this is my social media. So thank you for this and for listening.
Thank you for giving us all those amazing insights. And yes, give some applause with the reactions here because that is very well deserved. And yeah, first of all, and I said it before, thank you a lot, Tiago, for those awesome insights, for all the work you put into the presentation and to guide us through this. And I know we've been a bit over time, but at least for me, time flew. So it was super interesting. All the topics you gave us a glimpse of, and there is so much more to learn. So thank you a lot. Before we wrap it up, this is your chance in the audience to get one last question in, if there is one. Otherwise, we will spoil you with some dates or one date on where we will continue. It doesn't look like it. Perfect. Then, first of all,
We do have
thank
a
you again.
question.
Yes, please.
I see one hand raised.
Yeah.
Thomas.
Thomas.
Yes, ok. Então, João, Tiago, muito obrigado por esta apresentação. Foi um grande prazer ouvir as.
Thomas, you are muted right now,
Oh,
so we
sorry.
can't hear you.
It was my fault because I was activating my and I just disconnected Thomas, and he was going so good in Portuguese. I'm sorry for that, Thomas.
Yeah, no problem. João, Tiago, eu só queria dizer muito obrigado por esta apresentação, pelas as informações interessantes e tudo isto dentro deste formato. And now I will switch over to English. I'm a member of the board of the German Portuguese Association, so we are doing a lot concerning the relationship between Germany and Portugal, or Portugal and Germany. First of all, I have one question to you, João Tiago. Your institute in Madeira, is it also included in this initiative of Micronesia, because the universities of Micronesia are working together? Micronesia, this means University of the Azores. Azores is a very important group of islands, as well as Madeira and Cabo Verde.
Thank you, Thomas. I was uh,
The connection is
I was
losing
not
again, Tiago, so
aware
we can properly
of
hear you.
any everyone in the audience.
Okay, I will just quickly mute you because the connection is seems to be quite lost. Thomas, first of all, thank you for the question. If you could send us the question afterwards, I think we will, Anna Luisa, if you could put the mail in the chat, then Thomas can send us the question and we can get back to that. First of all, when we have Tiago back and, the internet. And we will answer that then after our session, if that's all right with you, Thomas. Not speaking, I will just
Ah, yeah.
say
Oh,
yes, yes.
okay, yes.
Perfect.
But in between, until João Tiago will come back, one little correction. You
Thomas,
showed this very you showed this very nice slide with the volcanic lake.
um,
This was, you hear me?
yes, I can hear you, but
Yeah.
I may have gotten the island wrong. That can
Yeah.
be. So
This
what
was
island was it?
this was the island of São Miguel. São Miguel.
Ah, sorry. I had
No,
the
no problem.
Acetus. Yeah, perfect. Thanks a lot.
Okay, same.
I would just ask Thomas to write me. I would feel very much privileged to answer, but for sure, Micronesia Islands, it's a kind of level that I want to implement and to work on in my institute. But I would ask Thomas to write me so we can engage in this more
Perfect.
detailed discussion. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks, because the time is pressing. It's getting late. And thank you for all the organizing team as well, and all the work that was put in before here. Because last words from me are quite boring. Tiago, you gave us all the insights. Would you do the honors of saying goodbye and last few words, let's say? Okay, I think the connection is lost again.
I would like to just thank once again Anobis and Felix. Can you hear me? Sorry. Yeah, but just
Yes.
thank you for this amazing opportunity and thank you Anobis again and Felix and I will be here for Hungary next.
Let's go.
Thank you.
That was the perfect information. Hungary, April 22nd. So come back for that. Thank you, Tiago, for the insights. Thank you all for coming by, for giving us your questions. And with that being said, almost 9. Let's enjoy the rest of the night. And it was great to have you here. Goodbye.